This is 5 Minutes to Change Your Life with me, Joanne Mallon, and a special series of episodes to get your year off to a cracker start. It's the A to Z of how to lift yourself. Hey, what about you? Welcome to day 22 of the A to Z of how to lift yourself. Hey, we're nearly there, lads. Thank you so much for being here. We've reached the letter V in our alphabet, and V is for values. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, our values, the things that you hold to be most important in life. Because identifying your values is a really, really important part of getting to know yourself in your core, in your essence. What do you stand for? What is important to you? Personal values they're usually pretty positive things. So when you identify them, what you're doing is leaning into what's good about you. And that in itself can be a fantastically beneficial thing to do to bolster up your self-esteem. Now, values work, it's one of the building blocks of coaching. You know, we don't always call it that, though. What I tend to do sometimes in my coaching sessions now is I sometimes ask a client who's maybe they're thinking about getting a new job or contemplating some other big life change. I'll say to them, what are the non-negotiable elements of this for you? And then maybe they'll talk about things like having autonomy or freedom or creativity or flexibility, those kind of things. But really, that's the kind of stuff that we mean when we talk about values. It's the big picture stuff. It's the broader elements that underpin everything else. Because if they're not present, then that can undermine everything else. So even if you only ever do it once in your life, maybe today, identifying your values is an important part of getting to know yourself, getting to know what's important to you. And then once you know yourself, hopefully then you can take better care of yourself because you'll have a deeper understanding of why you behave the way you do, who you really are. You can also use it as a guide if you're considering a new path in life. Say if you're changing your job, moving house, changing relationships. Values can provide a great path to clarity. I already mentioned on an earlier episode how kindness is a big, big value for me. I just find it so helpful that I can always ask myself in any situation, what is the kind option? And it's like every dilemma I have kind of solves itself because I have that as my guiding light. Values can be a particularly good thing to explore when you're thinking about the workplace and the work you do, because it might turn out that the reason why you're unhappy at work is because you're doing work that doesn't align with your values, in which case something's got to change. And you will also find that your values change a bit, and they kind of do sometimes evolve over time, because when we're younger we might be more inclined to live the values of our parents, caregivers, teachers. But then as we mature, you grow to discover that what's important to you might be very different to the values you were brought up with, just because it's different times and you're a different person. So a way into this, and by the way, if you're a journaler, if you like to keep a journal, this can be a really fruitful stuff to journal about. Or maybe you just think about it, give it a wee ponder, maybe write some stuff down. The way into it, first of all, is to think about what stands out for you as the most meaningful moments in your life. Just consider that for a moment. What would you say are the most meaningful moments in your life? Could be something you did at work, at college, birth of a child, maybe some other accomplishment. What stands out for you across the whole of your life as a standout, meaningful, good, fulfilling moment? And then when you've identified a few of those moments, maybe written them down, you can also go the other way and just think briefly about some of your worst times. Was there a time that stands out in your memory where you were particularly dissatisfied, angry, disappointed? And the third thing to look at as we're searching for our own values. This is quite a nice one, I think, is to think about who or what inspires you. Who are you drawn towards? Who do you admire? Now, this could be somebody that you know in real life, or it could be an author, musician, person you've heard of, just somebody whose work you admire. What is it about them that you like? And as you start to set out these moments and think about these significant figures, what you're looking for is anything that recurs. Okay, the commonalities, the things that you see coming up repeatedly, the common elements that must be important to you if they're there in the most important highs and lows of your life. Or maybe they weren't there in the low points, and that's part of what made the bad times bad. So to give you some examples of common values, because it can be anything, but it could be things like, well, kindness, I've already mentioned. Compassion is another one that comes up a lot. Integrity, honesty, loyalty. I think that might be one of mine, actually, because it really pisses me off when people aren't loyal, but maybe they just have different values, you know. Fun is another one. That's tremendously important to me. I guess to some people that would be far too silly, and they might choose, I don't know, ambition over fun. But I don't really care about ambition, but I do have a deep love for anything that's a bit silly and a bit daft. There's no right or wrong with this, okay? You do you, and let other people get on with being themselves. It would be a very boring world if we were all the same and all had exactly the same values. As you're going through this, you're aiming for up to maybe 4 or 5 values, because any more than that and it all kind of starts to get a wee bit diluted and it doesn't give you as much clarity. If you wanted to explore this more, and I appreciate there's a lot in all of this, there are many online exercises you can easily find that will help you explore your values. This is deep work and it can take time, but it is ultimately very enriching. Get to know your values and you get to know yourself and ultimately start to value yourself more. So good luck with that. I'll talk to you soon.